Welcome to How to Prove Triangles Are Congruent, Part 3, How to Write the Proof. This was a three-part lesson. The first part was to learn the four patterns of triangle congruence. The second was to learn the most common properties, definitions, and theorems for triangles. And now we're going to learn how to develop and write the proof. Let's look at what the format of the proof looks like. It's a T-chart just like this, where on the left you have statements that you're going to make, and on the right you're going to put the reasons that you made those statements, the justification for those statements. In most of the proofs, there will be three types of statements. There will be the items that were given. So they'll tell you or show you certain things in the problem. You will list those as given, that you're building on those to get to your statement of congruence. Then will be the things that you figured out using properties and theorems. And then will be the conclusion, which should be the statement that you're trying to prove, that the triangles are congruent. To show this better, I'm going to do an example, but we're going to leave out one of the steps. We're going to leave out the part where we use theorems and properties because we do not need them here. Everything we need to prove congruence will be in the givens. Let's take a look at what that looks like. First, let's take that section out. And now let's look at our problem. Two triangles, ABC, XYZ. We're told that line segment BC and YZ are equal. That would be these two here. We're told that AC and ZX are equal, those two there. And we're also told that angles C and Z are also congruent. So really, we already have a side, an angle, and a side. But let's see how we would write this. So the first statement we're going to make is the first given. BC, line segment BC equals line segment YZ. The reason is that it's given. Next one is going to be line segment AC is equal to line segment ZX. That's also because it's given. Notice how I've put the hash marks on these lines as we go so we can kind of see visually. So we've got a side and a side, and then our next given is the angle in between that we need that says that they are congruent. Those two angles are congruent. So all we have to do now is we've now used the givens to confirm for ourselves that we have side, angle, side. So all we have to say is the triangles are congruent by side, angle, side. Pretty straightforward, huh? Now let's do the next example, which is a little more complex, but it will give us a chance to see how the middle section that we left out here, where we use the theorems, are. So here's a diagram, and in this problem we're told that line segment RS is perpendicular to ST, and that line segment TU is also perpendicular to ST. The last given is that the point V is the midpoint of ST. And they're asking us to prove that SRV, triangle SRV, is equal to triangle TUV. So let's go ahead and draw our... before we do that, let's take a look at the shapes and make sure we understand what we're actually doing here. So I've taken those two triangles and broken them into two. And now, presto changeo, I've rotated them so that they both look like they're oriented the same. By doing this, you can see that the R and the U are corresponding vertices. The angles here are corresponding angles, and if you look at the original diagram, the R and the U, they look like they are corresponding angles. But this just gives you a better picture of what we're trying to show. It looks like these are congruent. It looks like we have some data here, so let's see how that looks if we go to the proof. And again, these are the patterns here that we're trying to match, either side, 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 angle, or angle, angle, side. So here is our chart, and let's first do the givens. So we'll start with RS is perpendicular to ST, that's given. TU is perpendicular to ST as well, that's given. And point V is the midpoint of ST. So far, so good. Now, let's see what we can conclude from this. First of all, if RS is perpendicular to ST, then that means that it makes a 90-degree angle. So then this angle RSV must be a 90-degree angle, and that's part of the definition of perpendicular. And let's go ahead and draw a little right angle symbol there. Okay. Now we also know that TU is perpendicular to ST, so this angle here must also be 90 degrees. So let's go ahead and list that, and our reason is that the definition of perpendicular, and we'll put that little box here as well. So now what we can do is say that angle RSV, the first right angle, and angle UTV, the second right angle, are congruent. And that is because right angles are congruent. That was one of the theorems in our previous video. So now what we have are two angles. So right now we have a pair of angles. So we can start thinking about either angle side angle or angle angle side, because we have an angle already. Now let's see what we can do next. What other information do we have that might be helpful? If we know that point V is the midpoint of ST, then we should be able to show that, or we should know immediately that SV and VT are the same length. If that's the midpoint, it's cutting that segment in half. So let's go ahead and say that SV is congruent to VT because of the definition of a midpoint. And let's put a line there to show that we now have a side. So right now we're at angle side. So things are looking pretty good so far for this pattern here. Let's see if we can prove the last angle to make that happen. Well, let's look at this angle here. The next angle that we could use, and it needs to be in order. Remember we talked about adjacent. So we've got this angle adjacent to this side, and if we're going to make angle side angle work, we need to make this angle, we need to prove that that is equal to this angle. Well, guess what? We know something about this. What does this look like when you have two lines that cross? There's a certain kind of angle that's created. In fact, it's called a vertical angle. So I'm going to say that angle RVS and angle UVT, these vertical angles here, are equal because vertical angles are equal. And I'll put these lines here that we discussed to show that two angles are equal. And there we have it. We've got angle, side, angle on one triangle that are congruent to the corresponding angle, side, and angle on the other triangle. So all we have to do is write our conclusion and say that the reason is angle, side, angle. Well, that concludes how to prove triangles are congruent, part 3, on how to write the proof. Feel free to go back and review any sections that you want to make sure you understand clearly, and place your comments below, and look forward to seeing you in the next video.